Good morning, and welcome to World in 15, your trusted source for comprehensive coverage of today's most pressing events, delivered with accuracy, integrity, and insight.
In a significant diplomatic move, Spain, Ireland, and Norway are set to formally recognize a Palestinian state, joining over 140 countries that have already done so. We have Shelby reporting on this.
This decision, aimed at promoting peace in the Middle East, has sparked swift condemnation from Israel, which has recalled its ambassadors from these nations. The move comes amidst intense international pressure on Israel following a deadly strike on Rafah and a humanitarian crisis in Gaza that has claimed over 36,000 lives since October 7. The International Court of Justice has also ordered Israel to halt its military operations in Rafah, adding to the diplomatic pressure on Israel to end its offensive. Back to you, John.
Thanks for that update.
Overnight Israeli bombings in Gaza have resulted in the deaths of at least 6 people and injuries to several others, according to the Palestinian news agency Wafa. The bombings targeted various areas in Gaza. We have Anthony reporting on this.
A strike on a house in the Daraj neighborhood of Gaza City killed at least 2 people and injured others. Additionally, Israeli artillery shelling of a tent for displaced people in Tal al-Sultan, northwest of Rafah, killed 3 people and wounded several others. Another shelling incident in Rafah resulted in the death of a young man. CNN has reached out to the Israel Defense Forces for comment. Back to you, Bella.
Thanks for that update.
As Russian forces began their invasion of Ukraine, they simultaneously launched a cyber attack that crippled satellite communications, disrupting Kiev's command and control. This attack, conducted an hour before the ground assault in February 2022, had widespread effects, stalling wind turbines in Germany and cutting internet access for thousands across Europe. We have Jensen reporting on this.
The incident highlighted the vulnerability of satellites, which are crucial for military operations, including positioning troops and detecting weapons. With the increasing reliance on satellites, countries are developing technologies to disrupt or destroy adversary space assets. These counter-space technologies include signal jamming, high-powered lasers, anti-satellite missiles, and spacecraft designed to interfere with others in orbit. Earlier this year, U.S. intelligence suggested Russia was developing a space-based anti-satellite nuclear weapon, a claim Moscow denied. Such a weapon could disrupt vital satellites used for weather prediction, disaster response, global navigation, banking, and emergency services. Recently, the U.S. accused Russia of launching a satellite capable of attacking others in low Earth orbit, following similar launches in 2019 and 2022. Tracking the development of these counter-space capabilities is challenging due to their secretive nature and dual-use potential of space technologies. Russia and China have advanced their counter-space technologies, while the U.S. continues to build on its space capabilities. This development occurs amid a new space race, with the U.S. and China competing to put astronauts on the moon and establish research bases. As geopolitical tensions rise, Beijing and Moscow are increasingly focused on denying the U.S., with its extensive ground-based space capabilities, the ability to use them effectively. Back to you, John.
Thanks for that update.
Pope Francis has been accused of making a homophobic slur during a closed-door meeting with Italian bishops. We have Alana reporting on this.
According to reports from 2 Italian newspapers, Corriere della Sera and La Repubblica, the Pope advised bishops not to allow gay men to train for the priesthood, allegedly using the derogatory term "Furtiagine," translated as faggotry, to describe the presence of homosexuality in seminaries. These comments were reportedly made on May 20 during discussions about updating guidelines for seminary candidates. The Vatican has long held a position, reaffirmed by Francis in 2016, that men with deep-seated homosexual tendencies should not be ordained. In 2018, the Pope also advised Italian bishops against accepting gay candidates for the priesthood. Despite these positions, Pope Francis has aimed to present a more inclusive approach to LGBTQ+ Catholics, famously stating, "Who am I to judge?" when asked about gay priests. He has also suggested that priests might offer informal blessings to same-sex couples. Corriere della Sera noted that the Pope, who speaks Italian as a second language, might not have fully understood the offensive nature of his language. The bishops reportedly reacted with incredulous laughter. A source close to the Pope indicated that the term could be interpreted to mean a gay climate in the seminaries. Due to the private nature of the meeting, there is no official transcript of the comments. CNN has reached out to the Vatican for confirmation, but has not yet received a response. Back to you, Bella.
Thanks for that update.
India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi has intensified his messaging on the campaign trail by asserting that he is divinely chosen for his role. In an interview with NDTV, Modi expressed his belief that God has sent him for a purpose and will guide his actions until his work is done. He emphasized his dedication to God, a stance that has become more pronounced as he seeks a third consecutive 5-year term in office. We have Philip reporting on this.
Modi's religious symbolism dates back to his initial election campaign, where he chose Varanasi, India's spiritual capital, as his constituency, claiming he was called there by the sacred Ganges River. More recently, he linked his perceived divine mission to his mother's death, stating that his life experiences have convinced him of his divine purpose. One of Modi's significant religious acts was the consecration of the Ram Mandir in Ayodhya, a temple built on the site of a demolished mosque. He performed rituals and took on roles traditionally reserved for priests, further aligning himself with Hindu deities. Billboards for the temple's opening depicted Modi alongside the Hindu deity Ram, and BJP leaders even referred to him as the King of Gods. However, Modi's campaign has also stirred controversy. He accused Muslims of being infiltrators and echoed conspiracy theories about Muslims attempting to displace Hindus by having large families. This sparked outrage among Muslim leaders and opposition politicians, leading to calls for an investigation by election authorities. BJP spokespeople later clarified that Modi was referring to undocumented migrants, but the Election Commission has requested the BJP to respond to the allegations. Back to you, John.
Thanks for that update.
Donald Trump's first criminal trial is reaching its final stage, with lawyers set to deliver their closing arguments on Tuesday. This trial, which began over a month ago, centers on accusations that Trump falsified financial records to conceal a hush money payment to adult film star Stormy Daniels during the 2016 election. The verdict, which could make Trump the first ex-president convicted of a crime, holds significant implications beyond the courtroom, especially given Trump's ongoing bid to return to the White House. We have Jordan reporting on this.
The summations are expected to last all day Tuesday and may extend into Wednesday. After Judge Juan Merchan instructs the jury on the law, the jurors will deliberate to determine Trump's fate. This trial is likely the only one of 4 pending criminal cases against Trump that will reach a jury before the November election. Trump's defense team, led by Todd Blanche, aims to challenge the credibility of Michael Cohen, Trump's former lawyer who has turned against him, and question why other key figures were not called by the prosecution. The defense will argue that the state has not proven beyond a reasonable doubt that Trump orchestrated the alleged scheme, and they will emphasize that Cohen admitted to lying and financially benefiting from his media presence targeting Trump. Joshua Stinglass, representing the prosecution, will present a detailed review of text messages, phone logs, witness testimony, and the 34 documents allegedly falsified to support Cohen's testimony. The prosecution will argue that Trump's actions were an attempt to prevent unflattering information from reaching voters, constituting election interference. Trump, who denies having an affair with Daniels and has pleaded not guilty, only needs one juror to maintain doubt to avoid a unanimous guilty verdict. A hung jury would result in a mistrial, potentially allowing prosecutors to retreat Trump. Any outcome other than a conviction could be politically advantageous for Trump, as it would avoid the label of convicted felon. CNN legal analyst Elliot Williams noted that, for many, the key issue is whether Trump is convicted or not. The defense strategy is likely focused on creating enough doubt in at least one juror's mind to prevent a unanimous guilty verdict. Back to you, Bella.
Thanks for that update.
Tropical cyclone Rimel has caused significant devastation in South Asia, resulting in at least 7 deaths in southern India and the evacuation of over 1 million people in India and Bangladesh. We have Patrick reporting on this.
The cyclone brought torrential rains and heavy winds, with a 12-year-old girl and her father among those killed when a poultry shed collapsed in Telangana. The 5 other fatalities also occurred in Telangana. The cyclone made landfall near the India-Bangladesh border, about 80 kilometers southeast of Kolkata, with gusts reaching up to 135 kilometers per hour, 84 miles per hour. It then moved inland, causing widespread damage, uprooting trees and flooding roads. More than 1 million people were evacuated as a precaution. Authorities mobilized volunteers and army personnel to assist with cleanup efforts and distribute essential supplies to displaced families. The Indian Meteorological Department reported that the cyclone is expected to weaken gradually. In Bangladesh, the maritime ports of Mongla and Para issued the highest alert signal, Great Danger Signal 10, advising all fishing and boating vessels to remain sheltered. The cyclone affected around 2 million people in Bangladesh, with many living in vulnerable housing made from materials like clay, wood, plastic sheets, straw, or tin. Power outages affected millions as authorities preemptively shut down electricity in many areas to prevent accidents. The Rohingya refugee camps in Cox's Bazar, housing people in flimsy shelters, are particularly at risk of landslides and floods due to the storm. Efforts are underway to manage the aftermath, with local authorities focusing on safety and recovery for the affected populations. Back to you, John.
Thanks for that update.
At least 16 people, including a 12-year-old girl, were killed and dozens injured in a Russian strike on a hardware store in Kharkiv, Ukraine, on Saturday, according to officials. The attack is part of an ongoing offensive by Russian forces in northeastern Ukraine, which began earlier this month when they crossed the border and opened a new front in the conflict that has been ongoing for 2 years. We have Carrie reporting on this.
Kharkiv has been a frequent target of Russian attacks, aimed at diverting Ukrainian forces and creating a buffer zone. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky condemned the strike as a brutal attack, accusing Russian leaders of wanting to normalize violence and destruction. In his nightly address, Zelensky emphasized the need for more air defense systems and stronger measures against Russian aggression. There were nearly 200 people inside the hardware store when the strike occurred. Rescue teams, including state emergency services, police and local authorities, have been working tirelessly to respond to the disaster. Investigators and forensic experts are sifting through the ruins to identify the victims. Ukraine's Interior Minister, Ihor Klimenko, described the aftermath of the strike as hellish and expressed gratitude to those who helped extinguish the flames. Ola Sinyhubov, head of the Kharkiv Regional Military Administration, confirmed that there were no military targets near the strike site. 10 victims have been identified, while 8 people remain missing. In the Kherson region to the south, authorities have warned residents to stay away from open spaces due to reports of explosions. Roman Rogko, head of the Kherson City Military Administration, advised residents to take precautions and stay safe as the enemy continues to attack from the temporarily occupied left bank. Back to you, Bella.
Thanks for that update.
The climate crisis, while a global issue, disproportionately affects women and girls, exacerbating existing gender inequalities. Climate change acts as a threat multiplier, worsening pre-existing injustices. We have Michael reporting on this.
According to the UN, women and girls already facing gender inequality suffer more during extreme weather events. Intimate partner violence increases, girls are often pulled out of school, daughters are forced into early marriages, and displaced women and girls face higher risks of sexual exploitation and trafficking. Selwyn Hart, UN Special Advisor to the Secretary General on Climate Action and Just Transition, highlighted that women, especially in poor and vulnerable countries, are on the front lines of the climate crisis. Unfortunately, current policies and strategies do not adequately address these challenges. To explore the intricate connections between gender and climate change, CNN collaborated with 7 women photojournalists who documented the experiences of women and girls in 7 global South countries. This visual project illustrates the diverse ways in which the human-induced climate crisis disrupts their lives and showcases their resilience. Each image captures both the struggle and the fight for a decent life in an increasingly unstable climate. Back to you, John.
Thanks for that update.
2 cruise ships departed from Baltimore this weekend, marking the first sailings since the collapse of the Francis Scott Key Bridge. Royal Caribbean's Vision of the Sea embarked on a 5-night journey to Bermuda on Saturday, while Carnival Cruises' Pride set sail on Sunday for a 14-day voyage to Greenland and Canada. We have Owen reporting on this.
Port of Baltimore Director Jonathan Daniels expressed excitement about the return of cruising, emphasizing the port's swift recovery from the bridge incident. The reopening of the port's permanent channel was expected by the end of May, according to a recent news release. The Port of Baltimore, a significant hub for cruise travel, supports thousands of jobs and contributes millions to Maryland's economy annually. Back to you, Bella.
Thanks for that update.
Thanks for tuning in to World in 15 for your daily dose of news and updates. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out on breaking stories and insightful analysis.